Hold on, I gotta look at my list.
Your
A lot
list
of them were probably not appropriate, but
Oh, do it as Kirsten Her Majesty. One word.
ooh, I like that.
It's relevant. I think we're good now.
Hey, y'all. I am Bearhart, aka Bill Weinman, aka Bearhart. And we have here Kirsten, who is in the middle of changing her screen name. Kirsten Her Majesty. I love that.
I was already.
And let me just pull up my notes. I'm running a little bit behind today. But there we go. There's my notes. I wanted to talk today about SQL and databases. I'm going to just bring that up in case we need that. Hopefully that'll work. Yeah, and I can make that a little. So I'm just getting myself all set up, which I should have done a while ago, but there we are.
For shame.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit behind today. My standard excuse these days is that I've been just nose down writing and yeah, that's pretty true. I have been nose down writing, and it's really been messing up my schedule quite a bit. But in any event, I want to talk a little bit about, because there seems to be this thought out in the zeitgeist that SQL is less relevant today, and nothing could be further from the truth. There are a lot of great new technologies that'll help you manage databases without ever having to type any code, and that's fine. Go ahead and use that stuff if it makes your work more efficient and more effective. But it's a really, really good idea. SQL is not difficult. My whole SQL course is what, like three and a half hours, something like that. You can easily take it in a day or two, depending on your experience level, and you'll get a really, really deeper understanding of how a relational database works. And most databases today are relational databases. And this is another subject that we're going to talk about. There are some non-relational databases out there that are very, very useful, and it's good to know how those work as well. So you'll notice that I say SQL. I don't typically pronounce it SQL. I know a lot of the kids today like to pronounce it SQL.
Kids these days say the darndest things.
You know, when SQL was first developed, it was SQL, and there was actually another thing called SQL, which has since fallen by the wayside. And so now I think it's more acceptable today to say SQL, but I'm old and I tend to be old school, so I will continue to say SQL. Although I won't judge you if you say SQL, I might not always know what you mean. And understanding SQL is a requirement for a lot of jobs these days, even jobs that aren't otherwise coding jobs that just have to do with data and managing data and collating data and understanding data. SQL is incredibly useful for this. So, you know, it's a really good, and of course I am plugging my new SQL course, which is 100% free and available on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And Kirsten, will you make sure there's a link to that on the description for this video?
Absolutely, it is already there.
There you go. There you go. So what is SQL? SQL is mostly for relational databases, and occasionally it's used in other circumstances, but it's really mostly for relational databases. Yes, Your Majesty.
Is SQL a 3-letter acronym?
Yes, SQL is a TLA.
What does SQL mean?
It stands for Structured Query Language.
Ooh, okay. That's helpful for me.
Yes. Yeah. So SQL is for managing relational databases. And what is a relational database? you know, I could do this better with slides, and I think I have a slide stack around here. If you give me just a moment, I could have been better prepared, that is for sure today, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this. Is this the one? What is SQL? Okay, well, that's a lot of detail on what is SQL, but this one here is what is a relational database? Yes. Okay, so we're going to do that one. I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to share my screen, and we'll see how well this works. Oh my gods. All right, so if I do this, yeah, we'll see. This may actually work. Yeah, I'm going to get better at this in the future, I promise. All right, how does that look? Do we see the slide?
She's beauty and she's grace.
Pardon me?
I said she's beauty and she's grace.
Oh, okay. And it says a database has tables.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a description of what a relational database is. A relational database has tables. Other non-relational databases may be organized differently, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So here's an example of a relational database that has three tables. The tables are these two-dimensional arrangements of cells. So you have rows and you have columns. And in this case, we have three tables: customer table, items table, and a sale table. And a table has rows and columns. I'm going to see if I can move this thing out of the way there. Yeah. A table has rows and columns. And whoops, let's go back. So in this case, this is the customer table, and it has columns that are named ID, name, address, city, state, and zip. And sometimes in older terminology that may have been before relational databases, those might be called fields. And the rows, we have three rows here. We have a row 1, row 2, row 3. Those are sometimes called records. And those terms are more or less interchangeable. They don't always mean exactly the same thing, but yes, Kirsten.
No, I was saying fields, records.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Looked like you were raising your hand, but I've got you like in this little thing over here.
Almost gotcha.
All right. So a row is like a record. And, you know, so in this case, we have the row for Mary Smith highlighted, and a column is like a field. And so here we have the address column highlighted. A unique key identifies a table row. And so you notice that there's a column called ID, and that's considered the unique key column. It's sometimes called the ID column, and it's often named ID. But the thing to remember is that even if there is not a column that has a unique key in that column, the database has one anyway, even if it's not exposed as a column in your queries. And the tables are related by the keys. So, for example, here in the sale table, you have an item ID and a customer ID column, and those columns relate to, so the item ID column relates to the ID column in the item table. And this is how one table can refer to another, and this creates relationships between the tables, and this is why it's called a relational database. This is the relational part of relational database. And yeah, I show, the customer ID column keys to the ID column in the customer table. And so it creates that relationship. And so here, this sale table has relationships with both of the other tables.
So it reaffirms my first thought about SQL and what it's used for. I think this would be really good for stuff like bookkeeping for a small business, or a small business that sells items. So
So,
I think it would be good for data tracking, like better than Excel.
it's interesting that you say that. Excel is modeled after this, and most bookkeeping systems do use a relational database inside of them.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, makes sense.
And in fact, the company called Oracle that makes massively large relational database systems, their primary business is providing accounting systems. That's their primary business, and they use their Oracle database behind all of that. So yes, it's very, very useful for that. And oh, that's the end of that slide deck. So there we are.
I like how you were surprised by your
I
own.
was, because I don't have the script next to it. But that explains what a relational database is, and I think that makes it clear. Non-relational databases are mostly variations on the key value model of a database, and this means that there's a bunch of data, and you can get to any individual piece of data by knowing its key and searching for it by its key. And oftentimes these keys are hashes, and they allow a database of, say, text to be searched and to be able to find individual pieces of this text by these hashed keys. These, I'm sorry, my neck has been out today. These key value databases, they go way, way back, long before SQL databases, back into the 70s and the early Unix systems. And there's actually a standard Unix program that comes on standard Unix systems called DBM, which is a basic key value database system. It's been expanded, and derivatives have been around for a long time, including Berkeley DB, which is embedded in many, many devices and systems. And more recently, something called RocksDB, which was developed by Facebook and is used behind the scenes on their products. And it's open source, and it's suitable to large scale data warehousing. So I wanted to, yes. Oh, you're pointing that way, but it's actually this way on mine. Ricky's got her hand up. Go ahead.
We have a comment.
Yes.
Omar Mustaf, who says, always a pleasure seeing Mr. Bill Weinman lecturing. Thank you, Omar.
Thank you, Omar. We appreciate you. So SQL was originally developed back in the 80s. And before that, there were relational databases, although they weren't always calling them that, and it was still a fairly new technology. And I did a lot of consulting in the 80s for banks, and I got a gig in New Zealand at the BNZ, the Bank of New Zealand in Wellington, which is the capital of New Zealand. It's the very southern tip of the North Island of New Zealand. New Zealand is two islands, the North Island and the South Island. The South Island has Christchurch and their ski resorts because it's in the Southern Hemisphere, and so more south is more cold. And their ski resorts there are considered, world-class, like you might find in Switzerland or someplace. And the Wellington, though, is at the southern tip of the North Island. They jokingly refer to Australia as the West Island. But Wellington is a beautiful city. I had a great time there. I was there for a month. Really wonderful, friendly people. a lot of cultural differences that I occasionally ran into, which were fun. And the work was to help them understand, to do some SQL coding and to help them understand this new product, which was just still in beta test. I think it was the first version of Microsoft's SQL Server. And what's interesting about this, besides the fact that that was just a really fun trip and I got lots of stories about New Zealand, what's interesting about this is that by that time, a number of database systems were starting to emerge with some version of SQL, but SQL was not yet standardized. And so it was years later, like 3 or 4 years later, before the first standards were proposed for SQL. And by this time, each of these different database vendors, there was Oracle, there was Postgres, or Ingress it was called at the time, I think. There was, Microsoft. There were a number of them. I think MySQL might have already been under development. And when it was standardized, each of these database vendors already had a lot of legacy code that needed to be supported. All of the code that people had already written, all the SQL that people had already written for their various business applications, which predated the standard, they needed to support that. And so for many years, there was no attempt by the various major SQL database manufacturers to actually support the standard. And the standard was standardized, but it remained unsupported in all of the major implementations for a long time. And to this day, that there are still major differences, and big parts of the SQL syntax for these various database systems do not support the standard. So
Right. That's that you sign off most of your videos with saying be sure to check your database because it varies from system to system.
That's right. This is probably the most useless standard in the world because nobody really follows it, and they can't. They would like to, but they can't because they have all this legacy code out there. Rickety, we got another
Yes,
comment?
we do. You were quick on it. Yes, we do. We have 2 Facebook comments from Tyler J. Bird, who says, no SQL not normalized, which exactly.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if he's referring to the thing called NoSQL, or the fact that SQL standards are not, but I that comment would apply to either. NoSQL refers to databases that do not use SQL at all. And those are usually these non-relational models that are mostly some variation on the key value model. And so what a key value database is, it's a bunch of data and you can access individual records by a key. And they're very, very fast. They make use of, because they don't have to support relationships, because they don't have to support tables and rows and all of that, and they're just accessed by these incredibly quick indexes, they tend to be very, very quick and powerful. Did you say we had 2 comments?
Oh, it was 2 comments from the same person. I read them both.
I see. And this was on Facebook. Okay. So, Ricky.
Oh, yes. And they responded both because it's relevant to both.
Yeah. And so Ricky, did you install, so Ricky did the transcription for my SQL course, and in the process, she ended up learning SQL. And so
I wouldn't call it learning SQL. I would say I picked it up a bit. But yeah, okay, so here's what I wanted you to explain to me. Here's what I don't understand. Okay, I downloaded SQLite Studio 3.5 for, I believe, 3.4.3. Right. Okay. 3.4.3. And
That's the
that's
version that I
newest-
have here. Yeah.
Yep, that's the newest version. That's a good version, right?
Yeah, it's
Tell
the
me
version that I have here. Yeah.
why I open it, right? I open it. So I downloaded it. I open it. There's a box with the green arrow, like you described. I click it to open it because it's the OS X installer, and I get a pop-up that says SQLite Studio 3.4.3 OS X installer cannot be opened
Yeah, it's
because
not
the
fine.
developer cannot be verified. Mac OS cannot verify that this app is free from malware.
Yeah, people run into that. So if you look closely at the prompt, it may or may not be there, but I think it is. It'll tell you that you can control click on it and select open on the installer, and that will allow it to run on your system. What this is because it's open source and the developer doesn't want to spend money on getting official keys from Apple, they're not able to sign it with a with an Apple approved signature.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have a couple comments.
Yep.
And before we get to those, I want to say that we should do, once I have it downloaded, because I couldn't figure it out. Thank you. It's figured out now. We'll have to do a full episode of seeing how much I picked up just by doing the transcription.
Yeah, we could do that next week.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. So let's go through these comments.
Okay.
Kirsten, you'll be happy to hear this. Your boy, your person, don't know their pronouns, Porcupine Butler, is giving you the wave, or all of us the wave, the O
It looks
slash.
like.
Yep. Then he says, which DB are we using? Database. And I could answer that. We are using SQLite 3, right?
Can you answer why?
Because it's open source and it has, I feel like it has a lot of different things that other databases don't have. So it's a good starting point because of that.
So there's a couple of reasons. One is that it is incredibly simple to install. It doesn't require that you install a server and a client and all of this complexity that most database systems require. And so for teaching purposes, it's really easy for me to get the student up and running on a database so that we can start concentrating on the subject at hand, which is SQL. The other reason is that of all the major databases, SQLite supports the standard better than any of the others. So I can really teach standard SQL and not have to say, okay, well, this is not standard, but
exactly. That's what I was trying to say. You said it more eloquently.
It's my job, years of practice.
There you go. Well, let's go through our Facebook comments because those were our Twitch comments, which I will get back to in a second. But on Facebook, Tyler J. Bird says, you need to add an exception. He's trying to walk me through downloading it. I got it. Thank you so much. And then he says SQLite is file-based. That's why we would use it.
Well, that's what makes it so simple, is that SQLite keeps the entire database in a single file, and it's a cross-platform file. You can take this same file and you can access the data on Windows, on Mac, on Linux, or even on a mobile device with different processors and different byte orders, and it doesn't care. It's very, very smart in that way. There's a million really great reasons to use SQLite. I use SQLite for a lot of things. I have this little short URL service that I use at j.bw.org. So I can create quick links to different things, and I can track refers and all this stuff. And I use SQLite for that. And it's just sitting there running on a web server at AWS. So.
Oh, wow. Speaking of web servers, there is a huge database that is now closing, sadly enough, because it can't maintain keeping it open. But it's a piracy database. It's basically like a search engine of piracy, sort of, that was holding a ton of different downloadable files for books and movies and TV shows. And I don't know if Zoom is blocking it out, but my cat
So
is.
some people are probably very sad about that.
I'm very sad about it.
Well, and I'm just going to say right off the top, we cannot endorse this illegal activity. And as somebody who makes significant amount of my living off of royalties, I can't even really approve. But
That's very valid. No, here's why I'm sad about it. I've never used it for myself, not this database. I haven't. But I feel like it just goes to show how deep rooted, like there's not a lot of alternatives for like Netflix and Hulu and buying all of them all at once. So it's just like one other resource that people will now no longer have.
So that's a whole economic conversation that I would love to have at another time.
Gotcha.
When you think about
I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, put it in the notes, because when you think about it, you know, before we had all these streaming services, we had cable. And most people's cable bills, even though, you know, they'll advertise like 25 bucks a month to get started, most people's cable bills are over 100 bucks a month. Once they get the premium services, once they get all the channels they want, right? If you were to take that 100 bucks a month, you know, you've ditched your cable, you cut the cord, you take that same 100 bucks a month and buy all the streaming services that you want, you're still saving money. So there's that. You know, people get this. It's like you go out and you spend $1,000 on an iPhone, and then you complain that you got to pay 99 cents for an app. People's sense of economics is warped by the emotions of, why do I have to pay for something, you know, that you know, somehow I've got it in my head it ought to be free. So we can have that conversation at another time.
All right. Well, let's go through some comments then.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a YouTube comment from Dermis TR who says, if this is your favorite, you're going to love this. Hi.
Hi. Hello, Mr. TR. Or Ms. or whatever. It is good to have you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
And then Porcupine Butler again says, hello, Kirsten.
My favorite. My favorite person. We bonded that night that I was pouting and you guys continued to play poker for 2 hours. And I learned how to use Restream.
Is that it?
Yes.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed our little review of databases and SQL. And seriously, go check out my free SQL course on YouTube. And yeah, we could really, we need to get enough streaming hours so that we can qualify for monetization. They're going to show you ads one way or the other, but we don't get any of that money until we get a certain number of streaming of streaming hours. So you know, go ahead and stream it, watch it over and over. Don't watch it. We could really use the streaming hours. There was something else, and I'm not remembering what it was. So maybe we'll cover it in our morning live stream tomorrow. We haven't got anything else. We're gonna sign off. I need to do something about this crick in my neck. Probably go soak in a hot bath or something. Anyway,
we have a couple comments before we go.
Go ahead.
Always a couple at the very end.
Go ahead. Yeah, I know.
Okay, we have 3 on 3 different platforms.
Fantastic. I love that.
Facebook from Tyler J. Bird says, you need to cover full text indexes.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll put that in my notes for a there's a lot of specific topics like that I didn't cover in. I wanted a just basic SQL course, and I'm going to do one on transactions. I'm going to do one on subselects. I'm going to do one on stored procedures, and yeah, I'll do one on full text full text indexes. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Then we have one from Omar Mustaf on LinkedIn who says, does SQL play any role in the generative AI?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I would imagine that it must, because generative AI, and again, I don't know for sure. Generative AI is very much about indexing and retrieving massive amounts of data. So I would have to presume that there is some SQL involved. There's probably also some key value databases involved, but it's definitely a big data problem.
Yep. Nicely put.
Yeah. And
then our last comment, which is fitting because it's the last one, is from Porcupine Butler again, who says, stream over, sad emoticon.
Well, we would love to stick around and keep you entertained. I mean, if you have some relevant questions, we can, or even irrelevant questions, then perhaps we can address them.
Sad face, crying face. We got up to 5 Twitch viewers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Twitch is turning out to be a thing for us. And if I'm not
mistaken, mostly just Porcupine Butler usually. He's a real one. Him and Skylord Sprinkles are.
Skylord Sprinkles, yes.
His Majesty.
There you go. See, our relevant. Porcupine Butler gives us a heart. All right. So if that's all for now, then.
Oh, well, we appreciate you as well. Yeah, there you go. We get the
K-pop hearts.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will pick this up again at some other point, and really I'd love to just put Ricky on the hot seat and see how her SQL skills are.
Now that we've got it officially downloaded.
And now that we've got it down,
that hurdle.
we got the first hurdle, which is actually a hurdle that a lot of people run into.
Yep.
And
I just wanted to double check and make sure, because when that said might have malware, I was like, no, not the malware.
Yeah.
Weird.
So I'm going to have to review that installation video. I thought I had addressed that. And if I hadn't, then I need to go back and make sure that I address that. So
all right.
We'll definitely take a look at that. All right. So this has been fun, kids. And, I'm really happy to see our Twitch audience growing like that. That's great. I'd like to see our YouTube audience grow as well. So if you know anybody that doesn't have Twitch and has YouTube, or however that works, please send them our way. Anyway, we love you, and we look forward to our next live stream. And we'll see you in the morning for our daily morning live stream tomorrow morning. And just side note, tomorrow is Star Trek Day. Thursdays for the next few weeks. Live long and prosper. I've been really enjoying the latest season of Star Trek Picard. And that's like every morning I'm like, yay, I stream that
then I have a clip to show you guys tomorrow for the Day of Honor.
I could show you, I could show this clip, which because it is, I want to show this because when we got started today, I don't remember, was it Ricky was asking, is it data or data?
No, that was
me. Yeah, that's a good clip.
That was Kirsten. And so I'm going to share my screen really quick.
I think that's just the country in me. Database.
Well, it could be.
And you got that database. You got that data I asked you for.
I love this. I love this clip from Star Trek: The Next Generation for how to pronounce data. Let's go here.
Data. Look at this.
Data.
What?
My name. It is pronounced data.
Oh?
You called me data.
What's the difference?
One is my name. The other is not.
I just love the way that he delivers that line. One is my name. The other is not. So it's pronounced data, not data. Yeah, I see. Go ahead, Ricky.
Sai Srinivas Kovada on LinkedIn. Please
Yeah.
let me know if I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't. Says, nice to see you, Bill.
Well, it's nice to see you as well. And
And also, they gave us the laughing emojis at the data.
it's just, the Dr. Pulaski season, the second season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, nobody liked her. Everybody hated her. They wrote her character to try to be snarky like Dr. McCoy, but they totally missed that Dr. McCoy was also lovable. And they just the actress, I forget her name, she's since passed, and she was on a lot of stuff. But she also had a small role on LA Law, like 20 years earlier. And she was the lawyer that everybody hated. And eventually, when they wrote her off the show, they just had her fall down an elevator shaft, like suddenly and unexpectedly.
That's
And I
kind
was
of effed up.
really hoping that would happen to Dr. Pulaski in the Enterprise. Go ahead. We have one more.
He says, the same person, Sai, says, I'm from India.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of viewers from India, and if I'm not mistaken, it is very early in the morning in India. So thanks for sharing your time with us, and we really appreciate that.
And then, okay, there's a couple more. Also on LinkedIn, Omar has pitched in again saying data is the plural of datum. LOL.
Yes, this is true. Data is its own plural. Or actually, singular of data is datum.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Oh, okay. Well, I just couldn't. The kitty, I sometimes need to be able to see somebody pronouncing something. Yes, datum is singular and data is plural.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then Porcupine Butler says, XD, everyone stall so we get more stream. And hold on, I missed one. I know I missed one. Oh, Facebook. Tyler J. Bird says you should try unions.
Union.
Unions?
Oh, database unions.
Yes, Mr. Weinman has a whole video on unions, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we have videos on joins, and I don't know if that's. I'll have to look it up and see if that's the same thing, and otherwise it's something we'll definitely cover. We have junction tables, and we definitely have a video on junction tables, which is critical to understand in relational databases. Hand is still up, Ricky. You got more?
Yes. I love how excited you get to hear the comments.
Yeah.
Okay, Porcupine Butler says, I think unions, oh, and he did it right. He did it all caps. I think unions are SQL database dependent. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that sounds like an extension from either Oracle or Ingress or one of those. And I'll have to look that up. I know I've heard of it, and it may even be in MySQL. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up.
And then Sai says, please add me as well when you are going to take another session.
Okay. I'm not sure how to add somebody, but I'm not sure if that's a thing with these live streams. But do we have, when we announce, do we have a way to do announcing stuff on Twitch or?
That was a LinkedIn comment.
Okay, well, we can, add you. Okay, so the way that works is you have to follow me. Because of the size of my account, I can't add more people, but you can follow me. And
put a notification for live streams.
Yeah, and just make sure that you get notified when we go live or when we post something. And we usually
good gracious.
our live streams are every morning at 11 a.m. Pacific. And that's our little morning, our just morning cup of coffee little thing. It's just a few minutes usually. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, this is all Pacific time, US Pacific time, because we're on Pacific time here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. And so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is 6 p.m. We were a little bit late today. That's 1800 for those of you who don't use AM and PM. We were a little bit late today because of me, because I was late. And so that's that. Okay, more, Ricky?
Yes, these ones, and then we'll wrap it up for realsies.
Okay.
Okay, YouTube. Alam Zaib Khan says, how to join Zoom? Well, we use Zoom as a platform to stream to a bunch of services at once. And maybe we could do something with guests on Zoom at some point in the future. We could do an application or something. I don't know. That would probably be very interesting. Anything to add?
Yeah. If we have somebody with something significant we would love to have guests, and we could definitely find a way to do that in Zoom. So that would be a lot of fun. And I would say join our Discord. And if you have a link to our link tree, you can find our Discord through our link tree. And let us know, what you would like to do as a guest. Yeah.
And then Porcupine Butler says, I know MS SQL uses it for sure.
Well, there you go. I am Microsoft averse. I know that Microsoft SQL has a lot of extensions. And I did once do a course on Microsoft SQL, and it was just such a royal pain in the ass. There are better database systems out there that are cross-platform. For large at-scale databases, I think there's nothing better than Postgres. And I would really like to do another course on Postgres. I have one up on LinkedIn, but it's really old. And even MySQL is far superior in so many ways from Microsoft SQL Server. And I know a lot of people would argue with me. There's a lot of Microsoft shops out there that are just Microsoft, straight Microsoft, and I understand that and I respect that. And maybe I'll revisit it at some point in the future. But right now, I just, it just seems to me like a real fifth wheel of a database.
And then our final comment, final for reals, final is from Sai, who says, thank you.
Well, thank you, Sai. We appreciate you. And we appreciate all of you. We appreciate all of your comments. Thanks for keeping this fun past the prepared material. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.